everyone. Pixie has joined me. She probably won't stay that long. But she's joined me as emotional support for what I have to review. Today, we're going back to the second Aliens Marvel Omnibus here with a 10-issue maxi series called Aliens Colonial Marines. Now, we gotta discuss some things that I consider to be cursed words in the Alien franchise. Or Aliens franchise. The first is the words Colonial Marines. With the exception of the technical manual, most of the time, just about every time, Aliens Colonial Marines is used as a title, it usually leads to either a crap product or a product that's not released. So this was the first time they did it, which this was supposed to be a 12-issue maxi series and was so bad that Dark Horse cut it to 10 issues. Then we got the infamous game and its free comic book days one-shot, which no one talks about. We'll get to that eventually. And then we had a Brian Wood Aliens Colonial Marines that, when Marvel acquired the rights to the comics for Dark Horse's Aliens comics, it never saw the light of day. And we know that at least 4 issues were written for it. I don't know if it was going to only be 4 issues long. With Brian Wood, you never know. But yeah, it probably would have been another Zula Hendricks, Amanda Ripley story. I don't know much about it, other than he was writing it in concurrently with another Zula Hendricks, Amanda Ripley story called Aliens Rescue, which to my knowledge is still canon with everything, and may or may not have been referenced in Alien Colony War, so I couldn't tell you there. But we're going back to the past to read some shitty comics that suck ass. You like paraphrasing, AVGN paraphrasing there? Oh man, Aliens Colonial Marines is 10 issues of I'm not sure what happened. This would have only been released in 1993. This went from 93 to early 94. Concurrent with the movie Alien 3, because everything we have reviewed thus far in this omnibus came out in 1993 or around there, because this was probably the most crap that Dark Horse ever threw out with the Aliens name on it. And most of this has been garbage. And this may be the worst of it. Aliens Colonial Marines is 10 issues. I keep saying that. It's 10 issues of a rogue Colonial Marine lieutenant and his band of terrible Marines that are just like the laughing stock of the USCM. Well, it's not the United Systems Military yet. I shouldn't use that terminology. I'm sorry, hardcore Aliens fans. They're the laughing stock of the Colonial Marines. They refer to them as the United States Colonial Marines, which I don't think is accurate either. I don't remember. I'm a fan, but I'm not that huge of a fan that I remember all that lingo. Anyway, so this asshole lieutenant and his asshole Marines are going after bugmen. What are bugmen? That's a really good question. The best I can describe them is that they're humans that have spliced their DNA with xenomorphs and can kind of control the xenomorphs. I don't know. Throughout these 10 issues, some of the time they fight the bugmen, and other times they go off on random adventures. And then we get to, like, what was the point of this? I don't know. It's best described as it has things. It has the other cursed thing, which is they added a Vasquez, a relative of Jeanette Vasquez from the movie Aliens, Carmen Vasquez, her sister. Now, this sister is no longer in continuity, but I mean, with the shitty Aliens Vasquez novel, I don't know. It's bad. It's another Vasquez that's just a terrible character. This one's addicted to the royal jelly and is a coward. That's her character tropes. Like, she's just terrible at being a Marine. I guess that was to subvert expectations. I don't know if that's better or worse than when we got in the Vasquez novel from a few years ago. I really couldn't tell you. They both suck. Ugh. This is just so bad. And that's not the only, like, tie this has to things. There's a character from Aliens Rogue that shows up, which makes no sense whatsoever, and it's to explain the Bugmen, which I can only assume would have been explained slightly better if we had gotten the full 12 issues that this was supposed to be. But herein lies the problem with that. This is written like an ongoing comic series, and it was never intended to be. It has multiple creative teams working on it, primarily people that worked on the action figure comics, which are fine in their own right as, like, kids-friendly comics, but in here, it just doesn't work. What we get instead is just a mean-spirited 10 issues. Once again, another Alien story that's overly mean-spirited and just unpleasant to read. Ugh. God, the only thing I liked about this, there is one thing I liked. The Mondo character shows up. Now, who is that? He's sort of like the Lobo or Boba Fett of the Aliens universe. He shows up in later little teeny stories, but he's a fun character, and he shows up in issue 6, and is overall fine. The main android character has a running gag through the first, like, 7 issues of this series that he can't do anything because he's worth too much money to, like, get involved in things, which is kind of funny the first couple times, but after, like, 8 issues of that, and then they finally, like, rip his brain open and change his programming parameters, it ceased to be funny. I think my two biggest problems with this series are this. The first is that this makes no sense in the continuity. Now, mind you, 1993 was the change to continuity, and the Bantam novels that we would get would adapt the, like, I guess, fan favorite comic stories into novels and try to make them fit in a timeline with the movie Alien 3. So, like, I get that continuity is about to change, but we still have a somewhat straightforward continuity with these Aliens comics, with the invasion of Earth, which I believe is referenced, as well as the corporation from Genocide, as we have to call it on here, or YouTube will take the video down. Those are referenced, and it's clearly at least after, well, it has to be after Rogue, which was clearly after Genocide. I don't know how long after, but it is. But wouldn't Carmen Vasquez be in, like, her 40s at least? Unless she's, like, a sibling that's way, way younger than Jeanette Vasquez, which is a possibility. She is referred to as a younger sister. But she would be way, way too old to be, like, this naive and dumb. She acts like a rookie in this. And I don't know. I can't imagine the Colonial Marines taking older women, like, recruits. They're not that desperate. Maybe they are after the Earth War. I'm not sure. But that just didn't make sense. Our well, there really isn't a protagonist. There was an attempt to make Carmen Vasquez the protagonist early on, but she gets quickly abandoned for like 4 issues and then is brought back only to do nothing with her character. Is the best way of putting it. The lieutenant is continuously a douchebag the whole time and doesn't really undergo a change until, I guess, like a penultimate change at the very end. The rest of the Marines are not likable. There's a sergeant who's like a blonde lady who suddenly, like, there's a reference to her having a child in an offhanded comment near the end of the series. We get an upping of the stakes when the lieutenant has the android inject bombs into everyone, a la Escape from New York. But that is like the most ineffective way to control people. Like get them to do what you want, especially when they're as dumb as these people are. It's so contrived and dumb simply because all these Marines do is fight with one another and argue with one another and just be overall unpleasant and not funny or likable in the slightest. And we get one issue where an android and a bunch of robots join them for like a one-off adventure. We get 2, almost 3 issues of big water buffalo xenomorphs attacking a kelp farm planet that comes out of nowhere. They also fight bugmen there briefly, and then we forget about the bugmen. They'll introduce things in this comic, and then you just forget about them. It's the most asinine, bizarre way of writing. And then on top of that, the panel layout hurts my brain. It's like they tried to reinvent the wheel of how you plot out a comics panel layout. Like sometimes, and especially if you can't read this in guided view half the time. They'll miss word bubbles and shit. I don't know who did the guided view for Kindle. They should be, I'd say they should be fired, but quite frankly, I don't know if they could have done any better, because sometimes the panels are all over the place. Sometimes the word bubbles are kind of just all over the place. And like, the panels won't necessarily be facing up and down. They may flip it upside down. They may flip it sideways and stuff. And you'd think, oh, that's a neat gimmick for, like, maybe they're going through some sort of crash or something. No, they'll just do that. They'll just say, fuck it, and just, we're going to have a free-for-all with the freaking layout. It's just stupid. It's a stupid comic. And I've shit on this book quite a bit, because it deserves it. But is this worse than some of the other Alien stuff I've reviewed on this channel? Because, I mean, for years, especially after General Lots made his review, oh gosh, probably 15 years ago now, at least. If not older than that. This has had a bad reputation. It's like one of the most hated Alien stories, aside from Alien's Pig, that I can think of, that are just straight up like considered horrible. With that being said, sadly, in our modern Titan Books era, we do have worse things than this. Because this is a special kind of bad. This is the kind of bad that's a train wreck. Like, you can't take your eyes away from it. It's kind of shocking what they decided was acceptable to put in print. Whereas, like, most of the modern Alien stuff, especially the 2020s Alien stuff, is really a trial of I want social media clout for being diverse and woke. That's really all those are. Which is, after like the umpteenth time of doing that, is just tedious to read. You're not breaking barriers when you're doing the same thing that everyone else does. And it doesn't hide your shitty writing because you have diverse characters from different ethnic and sexual preferenced backgrounds. It doesn't hide your shitty writing. So this is just like, I can't really compare Colonial Marines to things like that. Like, it's awful, but it's like a different kind of awful. And it's a kind of awful that you would have only gotten in 1993 when they said Dark Horse decided that quality control could go out the window in favor of putting as much shit out as humanly possible. Because this freaking comic just sucks ass. Words cannot describe how much ass this comic sucks. And how confusing it is to read it. And to, like, figure out what the purpose of it even was. I don't think there was a purpose other than to make money. Like, make a quick buck. But it clearly didn't do well. Like, no one read this back then. I mean, they had to cut the issues from 12 to 10. And rush out an ending that just didn't make any sense whatsoever. But the thing is, the rest of the book didn't make sense. So, I mean, it's kind of par for the course at that point. What would I rank this? It's probably a 1 out of 5. It gets a star for having Mondo in it. And we'll talk about better Mondo stories soon enough. It's going to probably in the summer we'll get to some more Mondo stuff. Like Mondo Heat is a pretty good one to check out. Would I recommend you read this? I actually wouldn't. I would say skip it. Even though it's like a quarter of this omnibus is just dedicated to this maxi series. It's not worth reading. Unless you really want to read some of the worst Aliens comics of the 90s, then I would recommend checking it out. If you're a completionist, I suppose checking it out. But it really stands to show that this omnibus is a testament to the Aliens IP just not understanding what made the early comics good. You know, like, they just gave up. They play lip service to other Aliens material that's preceded it, but they don't really care. And it's a shame on Dark Horse for allowing this to come out. It's not like they were going to lose out on money not having this come out, because, like, there were probably 5 different Aliens miniseries coming out at the same time. And we're not even through that. We still got some more that came out during this time. It's bizarre. This feels like something that just... This omnibus is just 1993, with the exception of like a couple issues that came out in 94 that are kind of sporadically thrown out there. But it feels like we're just trapped in the Alien 3 hype that's just a wet fart. So anyway, have a nice day.